Hi, I'm Darrin at Big Stick Combat. Today I'm going to be talking about the T-handled cane. Now this is one, I bought this here locally in the Philippines for a little bit more than $5, around $5. Now the person who introduced me to the T-handled cane is an American friend of mine named Phil. I met him here in the Philippines. Now just an interesting story, Phil, before he came to the Philippines, he used to work security in American casinos. And his job, he was telling me his job was not to try to arrest anybody. If there was a problem, it wasn't a walkie-talkie, he was get in touch with the cops would handle it. But one night he got confronted by this guy, and he said, I have a rule, I don't let people get too close to me, I don't let them get in my face. And I thought of my teacher, Master Ed Planas, who told me that within a certain range, whoever acts first, or if your opponent acts, if he gets too close, if he acts first, he's going to land that before you can do anything. In other words, at a certain distance, you perceive this moving. And by the time this can land, you can duck, you can dodge, you can flinch, you can block. But if I'm very close, if I'm right up on you, by the time you perceive that I've moved, you've already been hit, or God forbid you get stabbed. So this guy and his wife are confronting my friend Phil. Phil says, I don't let people get too close. So he hits this guy with a horizontal elbow, dropped him. This guy who was in his face got hit in the jaw with a horizontal elbow, dropped just like a sack of spuds. Phil was starting to get pretty confident, feel pretty good about himself. The guy's wife had climbed like a monkey on his back. She was hanging onto his back and clawing at him. And so he was frantically trying to peel this woman off of his back. So eventually the cops showed up and they hauled off the two. But Phil had been doing the hard style, Japanese style, hitting the makawara and doing a very, rigid kind of hard form, particularly making a lot of hard contact with, and he told me, he said, I'm paying a price for it now. He had bad hips. So he couldn't afford to get hip surgery in the U.S., came here to the Philippines to have his hips worked on. And when I saw him, he was walking with a cane. He had a T-handled cane. Now he told me that one night, he was going through kind of a dark street, 3 Filipino guys approach him and he gets bad vibes. He takes the cane in, and here's a tip from Tom Lang. He's written a great book on the long stick. He says one strategy is, if I have the cane, I do the fearful. I'm scared. What this does is this is a defensive stance. I've got both hands on the cane. And now what Phil did is the 3 guys approached him. The guy in the very center, he just comes right out with this strike right into the throat. Drops this guy. The other 2 guys take off. They want nothing to do with him. He moves on his way and he's not staying around to sort things out. So that's one advantage of the T-handled cane. See, because it has this perpendicular surface, particularly I'm scared, I pop out to the throat, this T is perpendicular to the thrust. Again, we want to be very careful the circumstances in which we're hitting anybody in the throat. But notice the crook-handled cane, if that cane is curved, if I hit the throat, there's going to be, because of the curved surface, there's going to be a tendency of that cane to squib off or slide off to either side. Same thing, notice here, this end is not so good, but I have an axe type of strike. Again, with the cane, because of this large hook, it tends to flop. So if I try to hit with that crook, or even punch with it, this cane wants, the crook handle cane wants to flop to either side. Particularly with this one, this is like a hammer. So if, again, from here, I can pop up. Now I can hit very strong and focus energy here like a hammer. And if you remember, I was talking about the T-thrust. Pop this up, and then now this is and again, because the crook handle cane is curved, it's hard to get that, particularly under stress, it's hard to get that perfect spot where I'm in line with a shaft. Here, the T-handle cane, you can't miss it. So really, the T-handle cane, the because of this hammer grip, because of the ability, particularly to do this kind of a very powerful thrust, and again, in a life or death situation to the throat, this is actually a very strong and effective cane to use. So I certainly recommend the T-handle cane much more over any crook style cane.